Hey, everybody, Dr. Justin here with Families Expressing Life Healthcast. And today we're going to talk all things poop, right? It's fun to say that. I mean, if you grew up in the 90s and stuff, the whole song, like, whoop, there it is. Anyway, I know, kind of crazy. I can't sing, but that really doesn't matter because we're not talking about the 90s. We're not talking about music. We are talking about poop. So, with that being said, each week we really try to get on and really dive deep into different topics. Sometimes we're going to have specials. We're going to have special guests. That's what I wanted to say. That was difficult to get out. We're going to have special guests that come on with us that actually begin to really communicate different topics for you and your family so that you can really begin expressing life the way that you are always tended to, the way that God always created us to do. So if you're watching this, please give us some love, give us some likes. That's really how the whole thing works, right? Whether it's on YouTube, whether on Facebook, no matter where you come across it, it's super, super important to get this message out there. And so today, as we go and begin to walk this path of the whole poop conversation, right? A lot of times people get a little, I don't know, I guess you could say we shouldn't always be talking about poop, right? But here in our office, we talk about it quite a bit because we see a lot of kids, right? In my chiropractic office, we see a lot of kiddos, and most of the time they are struggling. They've had some type of constipation, some type of digestive issues when they come into the office. The majority of them find themselves somewhere on the spectrum. And so really when it comes down to it, as our kids, or even us as adults, like we've seen adults that have struggled with this. We've seen adults that have struggled with constipation. And so it's not just in kids, right? It's in a lot of us. And so we're going to give you three things today. Excuse me. We're going to talk about three things that you can do, right? Now, two of them, you need a little bit of help. I'm sorry, one of them, you need a little help. The other two, you can do without any help. And so as we go through this today, we're going to share a couple stories. We're going to talk about a couple kiddos that have come in and just recently have actually began to see the difference in their pooping, right? So what happens is we get stuck in this fight or flight. We get stuck in this, we've got to flee, we got to get out of there, right? And I always kind of make the joke with parents when I talk to them. If you think about it, and we're running from a bear, a lion, a tiger, don't matter what it is, but we're running from it, right? We're not worried about digesting the last meal. We're not worried about pooping, although we may poop our pants trying to run just out of straight fear. But here's the thing, they're not doing that. They get stuck, right? So they get stuck in this path where they're not able to go to the bathroom. They're not able, or if they get older, right, they kind of maybe get to that point, but then they stop going because it's usually a painful poop. And so then they're like, oh, I don't want to go through that. I don't want to have to deal with this. So what do? They start holding it. Everything backs up. And then a whole array of different things begin to malfunction. Why? Because we were designed to poop to rid ourselves of the toxins. And that is why. That's also why it's so important, right? But what we will usually find in kiddos that come into our office or even adults is that they're under some kind of massive stress. They're under this stress that they've been dealing with, whether it was a birth trauma, right? Like a C-section or extended delivery. It don't matter what it is, or some type of trauma, some type of stress that has gone on for them for a bit. So it sends them into that stress side of the nervous system, okay? And then on top of it, what happens is now they get backed up. So my son, Jacob, he went through this, right? We didn't know all these years ago. We didn't know that he was struggling with these things. We just knew that he was constipated. What they tell us, go buy some gripe water, right? And I mean, we bought that stuff. We practically sold the store out because we were buying that stuff so much. We didn't know. We didn't know what to do for him. So that's why I share these things as well, okay? Now, what else do they do when they get a little bit older? Oh, let's put them on some Miralax, right? We got to get that stuff moving. Guess what? That's a chemical stress. That just makes things worse. Okay. We've had kiddos that have come in, have been on Miralax. They've struggled getting off of it, and they just simply cannot go to the bathroom. Okay. Or guess what happens? The exact flip of it. Now they've got tons and tons of diarrhea. Why? Because the Miralax is pushing fluids around the poop that's stuck in there, taking a little bit of that poop off and causing diarrhea. But why is it not functioning? Why is it not able to go to the bathroom? With Jacob, he had excruciating pain. Like, you could just see him. He'd arch his back. He would get so just sad and in pain. You could watch all the pain come across his face. And it was heartbreaking as a dad, right? Like, it was difficult. He would cry and cry and cry and cry. And it was like, buddy, I don't know what to do for you. Now, I wish I would have known what I know today, which is simply 3 things that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. But the key really is to understand why they're not pooping and why Miralax simply doesn't work, okay? So what happens is when we're stuck in that stress side, now we really cannot pull ourselves out. We can't get out of it, okay? And so now we are trying to get away from it. So guess what? The vagus nerve. Have you ever heard of that nerve? Guess what? It's my favorite nerve out of all the nerves in the body. It's kind of cool. It comes off the brainstem. It wanders. Vagus simply means wandering, right? That's what we do in Vegas. When we go there, we wander the streets. Here's the thing. When that vagus nerve is shut off because we're stuck in that sympathetic side of the nervous system, that stress or flee or fight side, then it says, hey, I don't need to work right now. I need to get out of danger. So it shuts itself off. Boom, done, okay? Now what we've got to do is we got to begin to stimulate that. And we actually do that through the chiropractic adjustment. Oh, I just gave you the first one. We're going to talk more about why it's important here in just a minute, but that's one of the 3, okay? And so as we begin to adjust and clear out that nervous system, that communication from the brain to the body to the GI tract, now they are able to begin to poop. And so with our babies, we'll see it in 1, 2, maybe 3 adjustments. And I'll always tell moms, and we just had one this week actually, and I told her, I was like, look, when after this adjustment, don't be afraid of 2 things. Number 1, your baby's probably going to sleep through the rest of the day. Like, don't get fearful of that. It's just his body beginning to function, beginning to react in going into that parasympathetic, calming, healing, developmental side. Now, the other thing is you're probably going to see some massive blowouts, right? So we celebrate the heck out of that. We love it when our kiddos begin to poop because they've been so backed up, right? And so a lot of times we'll even feel babies that come in and toddlers that come in and their stomach is just hard as a rock. And it's because all of that pressure is just being backed up and they're not able to begin to get rid of it, right? So as we begin to adjust them, now we have those blowouts. So it's not like, hey, but what we do is when we adjust that upper cervical area, we begin to stimulate that vagus nerve. Now that vagus nerve says, oh, hey, I guess it's time to wake up. Like, I can begin to go back to work, okay? And so as we begin to adjust that over and over and over throughout the course of care, what happens is now baby, toddler, even adult, begin to get out of that stress side, fight or flight, and back into the function side of the nervous system. And then that's why we see them begin to poop, begin to clear out. It's all part of that healing side, right? And we were designed this way. That's how God designed us. He wanted us to be able to do all these things, to go between the sympathetic stress side and the parasympathetic, right? He wanted us to be able to go back and forth. The problem is we have too much stress, emotional, physical, chemical stress, where we begin to struggle. And now all the important things, right, begin to disappear because now we got to survive. We got to get through this. We got to get out of danger before we can actually do the other things, okay? So number 2 is going to be magnesium. Now, you can get magnesium through your diet. You can supplement with magnesium. That's going to help soften a lot of the poo that's stuck inside of there. But it's just going to, overall, the cells, everything, the function of the nervous system is going to improve with that, right? And then the third thing, of course, is water, water, water. So many times when we come in, usually that's the biggest thing, right? And we actually have it on our paperwork. How much water? And usually what we see is that there's not a whole lot of water in either our kiddos, our adults, or whatever it is. They're just not drinking enough water. And so if you think about it, and I remember this when I was in physiology, right, back in the day, and we were talking about it, and it's always stuck out to me. So I use it a lot with my patients. But if this is something that's actually helping you, or you know somebody that can benefit this, please give us a thumbs up, give us a heart like you see right here, and share this with people, because these healthcasts are going to be super important. And as we go through this process over the years, we're going to have different people come on and talk about that, different topics, different things that really can benefit your life. So we would love the support if we can get that from you. Now back to the poop story, right? So we were sitting in physiology, and the teacher said, our body needs all of this water to begin to function, right? To be able to do all the things that it goes through on a daily basis. And she talked about how if we do not drink enough water, the body still has to operate off that. What happens is instead of getting it from the outside, now what happens is the body begins to pull it from different areas, okay? Guess where the biggest area is? The GI tract. Guess what's in the GI tract? Poop. Yeah. So it pulls poopy water out to begin to drive all of the different things that go on in our body. The brain needs a lot of water, right? And so a lot of times what happens is now that's why we see toxicity. That's why we see kiddos struggling. All of it because they're recycling this water that should be pushed out with the poop, but they're actually using that water over and over and over and over again. And so that's why we see so many kiddos struggle, right? And it's just gross. Usually, not always, but usually when I share that, we will see an increase, an uptick in actual water consumption, which is super, super important. So again, the three things. Number one, the most important is going to be the chiropractic adjustment. When it is very specific, when it targets the vagus nerve, and what we do here in the office. Number two, magnesium. If you can't get it in your diet, supplement it, right? Now, number three is going to be increase in water. When we begin to do those three things, we begin to function better. Again, the adjustment is going to be about communication from the brain to the GI tract. And more importantly, it's going to be about overall function of the nervous system so that your kiddo can begin to heal themselves, right? Or yourselves. And so that is really the biggest key. If we're not communicating properly, just like the cell towers, right? If we have cell towers down, now we can't communicate. We can't get this message to the area saying, hey, it's time to go to the bathroom. And so that's why we will, the same thing, when we can't communicate from the brain to the body, we get these mixed signals, right? And now we're not functioning properly. We got to get you out of the fight or flight stress mode by calming the brain, get it back over here to the connected and coordinated side of the brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, and begin to heal them. Now, here's the thing. We don't heal anything, right? We don't do that. No, I'm not the hero in the story. And you go back a few episodes, you'll see where I talked about the true hero. Now, with that being said, the true hero is simply you, right? There's always somebody, the helper, the one that helps really kind of bring out the hero in someone in all of books and stories and movies, right? So that's where we come into play. That's where the adjustment comes into play. We are that person or that thing that helps the hero identify itself as the hero and begin to flourish. So if this is something that has talked to you, if you need help with this, if you know someone that is struggling, if you know somebody that has a baby that's always in pain, that's always crying, that's always got colic, right? Colic is tied to not being able to poop. Kind of funny. It all runs together. And so if this is something that really stands out to you, please do not hesitate to share, because this is going to be something super, super important. Miralax isn't going to fix the issue. It's not that type of an issue. It's a brain to GI, brain to body communication issue more than a Miralax issue. Dr. J with Expressing Life Chiropractic, hosting Families Expressing Life Healthcast. And we hope you have an amazing day. If you ever have questions, concerns, if there's a topic that you want us to cover on one of our Healthcasts, please put it in the message and we will make sure. You can text us. You can send us a personal message, or you can even post it in the comments of the video and we will make sure we get that. We hope you have a very blessed day and take care.